Hello, I'm Jess, and this is my video about me. Um, let's see. My personal life, I guess, would be boring, honestly. These days, I work, I sleep, I go out once a week, and I play a lot of video games. I'm basically a 33-year-old child. Well, I guess big kid. I don't know. I enjoy fun things like Star Wars, Spider-Man, fun little comics, and random stuffed toys and taxidermy. That's just what I'm into. My mom doesn't like it. She tells me I need to be more of a woman, be more into womanly things. Hmm. Yep, that's pretty much the gist of that. Hmm. Let's see. I was born in Kansas. My dad is, was from here in Oswego. My mom is from Seoul, South Korea. They met when he was in the army. And this video is making me feel really awkward and uncomfortable because I don't like attention on myself. So I'm just gonna embrace the weird, embrace the awkward, go with it. So, anyways, I was born in Kansas. I am biracial. Let's see. I grew up in Oswego. My parents separated when I was 5. My mom ended up with an alcoholic, who she's still with to this day. Let's see. My dad raised me, and he worked overnights as a security guard, so I ended up spending a lot of time by myself when I was younger. Didn't really get along with the kids I grew up with. Got into a lot of fights. Got picked on a lot. Bullied a lot. A lot of ostracizing. So, it's probably part of the reason why I'm such a loner these days, but it's whatever. It is what it is these days. I'm kind of winging this. My mom's husband, like I said, he's an alcoholic. And he sexually abused me when I was a child. Not physically, it was more verbally and, that kind of stuff. It doesn't really make me uncomfortable to talk about, but I don't usually talk about it because it makes other people uncomfortable, and that's always weird to me. But it kind of goes along with why I am the way I am. I don't really like attention on myself. I get really anxious. I had a lot of body image issues growing up, and I think that had a lot to do with it. Plus, society's image of everyone needs to be thin and attractive, and I never fit that mold, and kind of made me end up going against the grain more so than a lot of my peers. So growing up, it was an interesting time being both like just awkward and different from everybody, but I never really liked to try to fit in either. And I always just embraced my weirdness. And I still do. I'm a very weird person. I say a lot of off-colored things and make weird sounds sometimes. But I like to have fun. I like to keep myself entertained, and I think that's more important than trying to take life so seriously all the time. So that's how I am socially as well, and I also do that in my own private time. Just kind of sit here by myself sometimes, whether I'm working on something or playing a video game or just lost in thought, I guess. Just sometimes I'll make a weird sound just to keep myself entertained or amused. Because why not? Keep it weird, you know? But in my social life, like I said, I go out like maybe once a week. I have maybe 2 or 3 friends that I spend time with. I used to be a lot more social when I was younger, or at least had more friends to switch between. But as I've gotten older, I've realized that sometimes people just suck. And having just, 1 or 2 good friends is worth more than having, like, a ton of people to talk to all the time. But when I hang out with my friends, I like to be myself, even if it's maybe like a different version of myself. Sometimes I feel like being a little bit more weird and obnoxious. Other times I like being more quiet and reserved. Really depends on my mood, what the situation is, what we're doing. I mean, sometimes I walk through Walmart and I like to push things over on shelves. Other times I get embarrassed when other people are being loud and obnoxious. It just kind of depends on my mood, I guess. So, let's see. I've been a depressive since my late teens. I think the worst stage of it was when I was about 18, 19 years old. It started when I was 17, but pretty much hit rock bottom around 18, started getting better around 20. When I was 19, when I was 19, I was raped by one of my best friends, and I was a virgin at the time, so that was awkward for everybody. It was really difficult because we had a lot of mutual friends still, and a lot of people didn't want to believe what happened because, I don't know, I guess denial is easier than admitting your friend's kind of a jerk. So I ended up seeing him a little bit more than I'd like to have back then, and it kind of I guess made it so I was more in denial about what happened, because I thought, well, maybe I deserved it, maybe I let it happen, maybe I secretly wanted it to happen, victim shaming myself. And when I finally came to terms with what it actually was, I think I was about 24, and this was also after 2 of my exes had sexually assaulted me as well. You start kind of putting pieces together, and that's when I fully realized the extent of the sexual abuse when I was a child from my mom's husband. You realize, like, little things, like maybe, I guess it's something I never really considered. Like, I knew it was screwed up what he did to me when I was a kid, but I didn't consider it sexual abuse because it wasn't physical, and sometimes it's harder to differentiate that when you don't fully understand it. But it kind of set the tone for the rest of my adult years, everything I went through with my former best friend and my exes. And oddly enough, despite all of that trauma during my late teens, early 20s, that's actually, after all that happened, was when I started coming out of my shell more and, started being a little bit more optimistic and not allowing my depression to hold me down as often, I guess. And it was a roller coaster ride through my 20s, just kind of dealing with everything, Went from feeling like I was absolutely worthless to thinking, you know what, maybe things will be okay. And I started not wanting to, I guess, work myself to death like everyone else intended, or like, my dad always had this idea of, the American dream. I feel like it was something about that generation. People born in the 50s and 60s kind of really like bought into hard. I mean, we grew up really poor, like extremely poor. I didn't really understand the extent of it until I was older. When I realized, the few years that I went to live with my great aunt and uncle weren't because Dad just needed someone to watch me. It's because he couldn't afford to take care of me the way he wanted to. And I didn't have the option of living with my mom because, like I said, because of her husband, I never would have wanted to. And plus, they lived in a one-bedroom apartment, and, she kind of didn't want me living there. She didn't mind me staying there. She didn't want me living there. And, my mom and I aren't as close as my dad and I were. But, it's not that she's a bad mother. I think it's just she grew up in a different culture and had different expectations of how she wanted her life to be and how she wanted my life to be. Sometimes it makes me wonder what goes through her head having to uproot her life from a different country to come here to be in a relationship that didn't work out. But, I kind of ramble. It's kind of a thing I do, but, it is what it is. Let's see. My dad died when I was 29. It was just the 4-year anniversary in September. He had just turned 50. It was right after my last relationship ended, so that was like kind of a big blow for all that to happen within a month. I get dumped, and then my dad goes and kicks the bucket. But he had a lot of heart disease issues, and at this point he had already had 2 heart attacks plus a double bypass surgery. And on my 29th birthday, which was 5 days after his 50th birthday, he found out that he had a blocked artery and had to go get a stent put in. So September 27th was the date of his surgery, and he went in that morning and never came home. I was at work for the whole weekend. I didn't get to see him at all. The next time I got to see him, he was already brain dead. So that was really a hard time. After that, I made the decision to disown his family because they weren't there. Go figure. Never really got along with my grandmother in the first place. She was always kind of mean. Just a little bit. Okay, a lot. She was very mean. So, after all that, I just kind of said, F it. F them. I moved out that December because I just couldn't stand living in the house anymore. And for the next year, kind of fell into a crazy existential crisis. All I wanted to do was run away and drive to the desert. Like, the idea of the desert became like this weird obsession. Like, just, I guess, wanting to be in a place that made you feel so insignificant. My nose itches. This is really annoying. But anyways, despite my dad passing and whatnot, I was still able to manage finishing up school at that time, even though my professors told me to, take the rest of the semester off and come back later, but I needed that distraction. And work wasn't the right distraction. And eventually I continued on. I did end up quitting my job at some point. Took a year off from work, took a year off from school. Went back to school, ended up getting my bachelor's in psychology. Yay me. And started a new job as a night auditor, which is what I do now. And because of that job, I decided to go back to school for hospitality management, which is why I'm in this class, because it is a requirement. Yay me. But but yeah, like so that's my personal life, part of my social life, and now we're kind of going into my professional life, I suppose. For the most part, I've always worked kind of crappy jobs that pay minimum wage. Never really had the experience, or I guess the drive, to put myself out there. Always been a very anxious person, and that kind of prevented me from really getting out there the way everybody else did. Not really a go-getter, not really a sociable person. But this job has actually helped me with that a lot. Somehow gained some kind of confidence having to deal with guests at a hotel. Kind of, it makes you figure it out, I guess. Like, I have to be nice to people, usually. That's why I work overnights, because I don't get along with others. That's kind of a joke. I'm nice when I need to be. But, no, it's gotten to the point where even when I'm out in public places, I can switch my work personality on and be less awkward and more forward, I guess, when I need to be. It's kind of like, for the first time in a long time, I feel really confident and like on a path going somewhere that I need to be. I'm financially stable, I can afford my own place, and I still have a little bit of money to spare. I don't get too crazy. Like I said, I don't really go out, so I just spend my money on stupid, trivial things that I shouldn't, but yeah, if I can afford it, if it makes me happy, what can you do? It's kind of my thing to say. What can you do? But, yeah. I don't really know what else to say. As far as me after this class, pretty much gonna be doing the same exact thing I was doing before, and what I would have been doing if I hadn't taken this class. Just keep moving forward and being myself, and roll with the punches of life. Just, it's so weird looking at my face. I don't really like it. I'm not used to this. Okay. So, anyways, I'm just gonna stop now because this is getting really weird. It's also my bedtime because I don't even know, noon o'clock, something like that. And I have to work tonight. Whatever. So, anyways, this is me. I'm gonna stop now because, I think I'm just making this worse. Okay, bye.